So I was starting to feel like my oil leak issue is getting worse, and it definitely is. Finally took the time to put the car up and have a good look. Yeah, sure enough, man, it's really leaking a lot from this particular boot. I have new boots. Don't exactly know where they are, which, if you've ever noticed my garage in the background, it's probably not a big surprise to you. That one's looking a little drier. That's nice. I've actually also got new seals too. So really, I just kind of need to do the whole thing, but I need to find the boots first. Now, I definitely am getting oil here, and you know, when the car is level, that is not a low point on the transaxle like this one is. So I think that I probably am getting a leak from there. And I did get some sealant that is maybe better than the sealant that I used last time. And so I think what I'll try to do is find those boots, get them put on, and then go ahead and, you know, pretty quickly here, get some more gear oil, drain this, you know, seal the threads on my drain plugs, both this one here and that one up there, and see what that does for me. And I think that I'm also still getting maybe some oil from the valve covers. It's kind of hard to get the right angle to show you, but let's see, maybe, yeah, it's hard to tell. If it is, it's not much, but I think I'll just sort of worry about, you know, low-hanging fruit, right? Like, clearly this thing is an issue. So start there, see where that gets me. Just kind of plug away at it until I get it all knocked out. You know, it's always in the last place you look. I understand that's an old joke, but it's also sometimes just sort of meaningful. I like the fact that this package here that I just now pulled from this outer packaging, already partially unpackaged for my benefit, maybe? I'm sure everything is still here. Anyway, hooray! I found the boots. And as I said before, I also already have the seals. So it may be time to get going on this. 2 boots, 9 holes, 18 screws, 18 nuts, 4 clamps. Looks like we're ready. I'm not even sure what temperature it is. I haven't looked. It's probably around 100. And, you know, I'm in my garage. So even though this fan is really not very good, it's better than no fan at all. So I'm going to use it. I got my cords set up here, and trusty light. I've had this thing since I was a teenager, I think. Quite a long time. Anyway, you can see in here this boot that has, you know, seen better days. You can, like, you know, put your finger in it, whatever, just rip that stuff up, no problem. So of course the first thing I need to do here, you know, there's videos out there where guys are showing, you know, the best ways to do this, and they got better camera angles and everything like that. I'm not trying to, you know, be the guy that shows you the exact best way to do stuff. I'm just showing you me doing it. And so we've got these sort of like cotter pins here. You know, these are, if not original style, you know, where like you would have had to have the drum, and, you know, and the whole term isn't coming to me, but you'd have to have all this stuff off of your axle tube in order to be able to, you know, get that. You know, all of this stuff would have to be off of there. Actually, I take that back. Really, all this stuff out here wouldn't matter. You have to install it from the inside. So it would have to be disconnected from your transaxle in order to, you get this kind of boot on here. The boot is solid all the way around as opposed to the split boot. So anyway, this is the original style, and these cotter pins or whatever just kind of twisted around to sort of hold this. And again, here I am, like, doing stuff one-handed to try to show what I'm doing. It's utterly ridiculous, but it's what I've got. So you can kind of see as I twist this thing around that it is coming looser. I'm sure that a lot of the things I do, like, there's better tools, but I have the tools that I have, so I use them. It's like dizzying logic, I know. But you can see that, this is starting to loosen up, this clamp here, or this, it is a clamp, but basically it's just a band of steel. I'll kind of show it to you when I get it off. Anyway, I'll just keep doing this until this comes loose. Do the same thing up here on this one, and then, I can just rip with my hands the boot off, and clean all this up and stuff. So that's next on the agenda. Little interim deal here. You can see where I just, literally just stuck my hole in the finger and just ripped around to, pull this part of the boot down and expose that. Got a drain pan there to collect some of that oil. And so this didn't come off super easily yet, so I'm going to play with that some. I'll show you what it looks like afterward. But here we go. It occurred to me that rather than trying to figure out the best way to just, hey, there we go. That's easier, right? Cool. So I decided to grab a razor blade, which is like the best thing in the world, and just slit through here. And, it's going along real nice and easy, right up until a point where I feel like, hey man, it's hitting something hard, maybe there's metal in there. Yeah, sure enough, there's metal here. So I couldn't really distinguish it where it was located. It's a little bit more obvious now that there's the, this band underneath this other band. But so I just used my tin snips there again and cut through that part. No big deal. So I went with the tin snips again, and you can kind of see, the way this goes. There's just a little, U-shaped bend in the beginning here. It comes around. You're going to wrap it around your not the axle tube, but the big fat part up by the transaxle. And then, it comes around here, and this used to be attached, here, right? And so you're just coming back around, coming through here, wrapping around again, and then you get it up underneath this, sort of cotter pin assembly, push it through that, and then as you twist the cotter pin, that's what tightens it down. So really, really basic, yet highly effective method there. And so that kind of explains why, on the other one that I, did earlier, I cut that outer band, but there was still the band inside because, that's the design. So that's how that works. And after I got that loose, razor blade was my friend again. You can see that nice clean cut all the way up to here where, I got it ripped, because I wasn't able to get that far with the razor blade. But yeah, pull that loose, and now, oh, look at all that beautifulness. So even though that thing was, pretty well shot, it's still fairly decent in here. It doesn't look like too much crap has made its way in. That's kind of nice. So I'm using this beauty here, and to a lesser degree this here. I'm sure it's not the right tool, but it's the tool I'm using. Get this all nice and cleaned up, at least out to beyond the point where the boot is going to seal. And that's the kind of key point here. The boot needs to seal to this. And so having it be uneven and rough and crap all over it really isn't the best. So clean it up. And there's a few spots that I still need hit wire wheel. Hasn't done quite everything. Might wind up bringing a file in here, or at least to begin with, some sandpaper, and just kind of see what I can do. Nice thing with sandpaper is you can just wrap it around like this, and one hand on each side, just you know, almost like old school sawing, you know, just back and forth, back and forth. And that cuts through it pretty nice and quick. And so that's what I'll do next. Getting a nice summer rain. The smell of a summer rain, everything else to accompany it. Got a decent little spattering of grease wrapped around the two places where the boot will have to seal. Right up in here, and right down in that general area there. And so now I will install these boots, tighten it down, check it all out, be happy. The rain has kind of changed things a bit for me. Had to lower my garage door as much as I could when I realized that raising my car up as far back as it was kind of makes it impossible to shut the garage door. Oops. But we're still plugging away here, and again showing you, you know, the process one-handed. It's kind of ridiculous, but there you go. So just getting these things in one at a time, barely starting the lock nuts, not nylock nuts, and I'll get all those down to here, make sure I'm happy with the grease distribution before I get too far down here. Not especially happy with it right now, and yeah, tighten her up. So I've got the band on the boot at the transaxle end there, and in order to get it to situate properly, I did have to push in at the top of the band and boot. It wanted to come away, and that is almost certainly a direct result of the fact that the axle tube is trying to think of the right term. Basically, it's down instead of up where it might normally be, because the weight of the vehicle is not on the drum out here, because the wheel is off and it's up on jack stands. So it makes sense that it would be, you know, pulling at an angle that it was not really designed to, ideally. And so anyway, I've got all of the screws and nuts there, you know, tightened down sufficiently, not over tight, but not too loose either. And I've got the band at the transaxle, not quite as tight as I intend to ultimately, but really close. But this one out here is still pretty loose, this outside band. And that is because if I didn't hear it somewhere else, I think I did, it does occur to me that it makes sense that you want the pressure of the weight of the vehicle on the axle tube before you tighten that down. So basically I need to put the wheels back on and situate the car back down on the ground before I tighten that. So as they say, it always winds up better the second time. So I just loosen that enough to where I can get my snips in here. Boom. No need messing around with anything else. I'll do the same thing down here. Slit the boot off, easy peasy. I'm getting started in a little bit different way this time. I've still gone ahead and smeared the grease on both surfaces, but I also went ahead and put these clips on ahead of time. They come already sort of attached, so you gotta, you know, unscrew them all the way so you can put them around your tube. But I think this will be a little bit easier getting them on. Just slide them up over after I've got the boot in place. So not much different, but you know, one little thing there. And I also just decided that it would probably be easier to start my screws in the middle as opposed to on either end. Again, not a big difference, but I think it'll be a little easier. So So I just determined that my great plan of putting the clamps around first, not such a great plan, not a really big deal, because all I had to do was just unscrew it a little bit until it came loose. But it turns out that the clamp, as much too big as it is for the size it's going around, it was still too small to go around the widest part of the boot. So no big deal, but just figured I'd point out, if you're thinking about doing that, don't bother. All right, so I've put the vehicle back down on the ground and tightened up this outside until the point, and what I decided made sense to me was when I can no longer grab the clamp, the threaded part of the clamp up here, where you actually, spin it to tighten. When I can no longer grab that and twist and get any movement out of here, just barely to the point where I can no longer spin it. And I think that's about right. So we'll see. I think it should be good.